Hey guys, I normally do not do voiceovers on my videos, as you guys know. However, if you caught last week's episode, at the end of the clip, I did a preview for this week's episode of Rolln with Tbone presents Spooktober. So, I believe this is the part of the video last week that got me the copyright strike. So, I'm just going to use the same clip with this voiceover. But here we are, guys. You made it to episode 1 of Rolln with Tbone presents Spooktober. Hope you guys enjoy. Remember to comment, like, and share. Alright guys, welcome to the first episode, the first installment of Rolln with Tbone presents Spooktober. And we're riding down the road on Copper. Copper was the one who won the flip, the coin toss, to get to bring us into the Halloween season with Rolln with Tbone presents Spooktober. I'm not sure what the opening for this is going to look like because I haven't made it yet. It may just be the simple Rolln with Tbone opening. However, welcome in. In my normal videos, I would say, if you are new here, welcome in. My name's Tbone. I shoot motorcycle related content, and as you're about to see, if you stick around, any kind of content. If you're old here, well, welcome in. If you have watched my videos in the past, you may have watched my Halloween series I did called The Rocking Shocking October of Motos and Mayhem. I shot those back when this channel was called Tbone Southern Ride. Also, if I sound different, it was kind of windy today, so I decided to go ahead and put on my full face helmet. My full helmet. Normally I ride and record with my lid on, my skid lid, but today I decided to go ahead and break out the old full face helmet because the wind is kind of bad out here today. Alright guys, so the movie that I'm going to talk about that's going to kick off Rolln with Tbone presents Spooktober is, as promised, 1984 cult classic, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Let's dive into it and see what we turn up. Now, A Nightmare on Elm Street, like I said, was the brainchild of Wes Craven, and believe it or not, John Carpenter was in on it. Of course, Wes Craven got full credit for it. Freddy Krueger being a bully who bullied Wes Craven when he was a kid, and he would have nightmares. So what he done was he took and married those two things together and came up with a slasher classic called A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, this movie was remade in 2010, I think. Not trying to down the movie, but the remake sucks. Not, like I said, it's like other movies that are remade. It's not because of the cast of actors. The actors did a great job. It's just they were handed an iconic movie to try to remake. And you can get by with that kind of stuff in other genres. Action, romance, comedy. But there are some movies that come along that just make such a mark that really trying to remake them, you're just setting yourself up for failure, sadly. And Nightmare on Elm Street is definitely one of those movies. So basically what happened was, in the late 70s and into the 80s, you had what are called these slasher movies. And of course, it all began with John Carpenter's Halloween, 1978. That was actually the one that was considered to be the beginning of the slasher series. I'm not so sure if it was the very first one, because you had Sleepaway Camp that came out of that time period. Of course, you had Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and some people will argue that Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which also came out in 1978, was the beginning of the horror movie slasher craze. And historically speaking, Texas Chainsaw Massacre did come out before Halloween did. So there it is. I'll throw it on the ground and y'all fight amongst yourselves about it. Because what we're talking about right now is Freddy Krueger, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Essentially, Freddy Krueger is a child murderer, and he gets caught, but through a loophole, they have to turn him loose. They can't press charges against him. They can't put him in prison. Because of a loophole, they have to just essentially turn him loose. So the parents of Springwood, which is where this supposedly happened, was in Springwood, Ohio. The parents were not at all pleased with this, so they decided to go to Freddy's workshop one night, light up a Molotov cocktail, throw it through the windshield, or throw it through the window of the shop, and they burnt Freddy up in his shop, burned him alive. Now, you would say, okay, then that has to be where the story ends. Alright, in horror movie world, that's where the story begins, because up until Nightmare on Elm Street, all of your slashers, Jason, Freddy, Leatherface, they all wore masks. They were these faceless, soundless killers, just mindlessly killing. So you had two things immediately that separated Freddy Krueger from the rest of the pack. The first thing being that Freddy Krueger was, in fact, you could see him. There was no mask covering his face, although he was burnt badly burned. But you could see his face, you could see his features. And, he didn't have a whole lot of dialogue in that first movie. Of course, Freddy Krueger was brought to life by, well, he was created by Wes Craven, but he was brought to life by, are you kidding me? His name just slipped. Alright, so I'll tell you what I do when this happens, is I just continue on. But he was brought to life in a way that the dialogue inside the movie was not a lot of dialogue, but the lines that he had were in fact creepy, scary. And of course our antagonist I get those agonists as a mixed up right there. Protagonist, the bad guy goes after the kids. And so the bad guy goes after the kids. Now, what happens is, a lot of things happen in this movie, but the worst part of the, of course, Freddy Krueger lure is that Robert Englund was the one who brought Freddy Krueger to life. Good grief. Getting old sucks, guys, I'm telling you. I know Robert Englund's name is burned into my mind, but so the worst part of Freddy Krueger is that he doesn't come at you, in the daytime when it's raining, nighttime, when you're running around the camp. Freddy comes after you when you fall asleep. Now, there is a thing that happens that is actually very, very real. And it happens in the 80s when Freddy Krueger launched, that there was a study going around. There is a thing that is called sleep paralysis. Now, it don't happen to everyone. I have actually had sleep paralysis to happen to me 2 times in my life. The first time I was young, the second time me and Regina had been married for a while. But essentially what sleep paralysis is when your eyes are open and you are awake, but your body does not move. Your eyes are open, you're awake, you're aware of what's going on with you, but you cannot move your arms, you cannot move your legs. It's actually a scary thing, guys, because your first thought is, oh crap, why am I paralyzed? But some people have it more than others. And like I said, the 2 times that I had it, it was pretty scary. But in the 80s, there were sleep studies going on trying to figure out why, you know, people were suffering from sleep paralysis. And if it sounds like I'm screaming, guys, I am terribly sorry about that, because I've been riding with the open face microphone setup for so long. I talk a little louder, but I don't mean to be screaming. So I'll check the volume on these before I edit, while I'm editing it. And if it's too loud, I'll lower the volume down some. But yeah, so what would happen with these kids? And now there was a great cast of kids. And 2 that I'm going to focus on the most, of course, are Robert Englund and Heather Langenkamp. Heather Langenkamp's character, Nancy Thompson, was in fact the heroine of the story. She was the one who faced Freddy in the end. But of course you also had another unknown actor that would become very, very famous in Johnny Depp. As a matter of fact, Nightmare on Elm Street was Johnny Depp's very first movie, where he played our young heroine's boyfriend. But I was going to insert a couple movie clips in this somewhere, and I might still, but I'm just really trying not to get that copyright strike. So just for copyright reasons, I may not. But anyway, I may like scatter some photos out in this thing, see how that comes out. But so what ends up happening is that Tina gets killed, Rod gets killed, and Glenn, which is Johnny Depp's character, gets killed. And Nancy's mom, of course, thinks that she's going crazy, so she takes her to a I guess it's a sleep doctor, where they're trying to find out what it is about her dreams. Well, as Nancy dozes off and goes into REM, soon she's in a nightmare. She's screaming and hollering, and as they go in to wake her up, she wakes up and she's got 4 slash marks across her arm from Freddy's glove, but she also has his hat, and she pulled it from inside of her dream, which was going to be her talent. That would be how she decided that she was going to beat Freddy Krueger, would be to go into her dream, set an alarm, and have him, you know, bring him out and kill him once he's human again. And that would be a recurring theme through several of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. But anyway, this works. She goes in, she comes out, and of course Freddy comes out of the dream with her. But things kind of go askew for our young heroine. Now, I'm not going to tell you the end of the movie, because I in fact want you to watch the movie or re-watch the movie to reacquaint yourself with it. But as far as the slasher series of movies goes, guys, Nightmare on Elm Street actually is probably my most favorite. And well, no, it's not probably, it is my most favorite horror movie series of all time, followed closely by Friday the 13th. Wes Craven's mind, and of course Wes Craven's no longer with us, he passed away some years back, but to get you prepared for what Wes Craven done in Nightmare on Elm Street, there are a couple of movies you can go back and watch of Wes Craven's. Those being Last House on the Left, which is a gruesome movie. Crazy movie. Last House on the Left is, if you've ever watched I Spit on Your Grave, you're getting in the right mindset to watch Last House on the Left. But you have that, and then you also have, of course, the very iconic in the horror movies genre, The Hills Have Eyes. And now I think in the Rocking Shocking October of Moto's Mayhem, I actually covered The Hills Have Eyes. I love The Hills Have Eyes. There's two of them that are 77. Was it 76, 77, or 77, 78? Anyway, there's a part one, there's a part two. I love both parts. And for you motorcycle lovers, the original Hills Have Eyes Part 2 has got some cool motorcycle stuff in it. Garter snake crawling across the road, little green garter snake. But Nightmare on Elm Street set the slasher series on its ear because it was no longer a faceless, emotionless character that was coming after you. This was very much a guy who inside your dreams could kill you. I mean, that was essentially the worst part of Freddy Krueger, was that inside of your dreams he could actually kill you. And they would always say, if you die in your dreams, you die for real. Alright guys, I had to make a little pit stop for R1. Got that back on the road now. But yeah guys, as we were talking about Nightmare on Elm Street, you know, I always say that every man my age, we had Daisy Duke, we had Pamela Anderson, Heather Langenkamp, who played Nancy Thompson. I always thought she was a very beautiful girl. She was one of my childhood crushes. A young Tbone there, had a little crush on her, had a little crush on Vanna White. But you know, the funny thing about those movies are, guys, there are several of those movies. There's I think there's like 7 or 8 of them all together. If I was going to give you an order to watch these movies in, a chronological order is going to be what messes you up. But if you're wanting to go, and of course Nancy Thompson was the very first one to defeat Freddy, in a sense, if she actually defeated him, which we would find out no, she didn't. But I would say if you were interested in those storylines, that long arcing storyline for certain characters, you would watch the first one. You would watch number 3, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, which in my view should have been number 2, but it wasn't. And then you would watch Wes Craven's New Nightmare that came out in 1994. Now, those 3 movies, of course, feature the character of Nancy. Wes Craven's New Nightmare, that's a whole different bag of tricks. Wes Craven's New Nightmare is not the same as Nightmare on Elm Street because they changed the character, they changed the dialogue. Freddy, who was still played by Robert Englund, was in fact still Freddy Krueger in Wes Craven's New Nightmare, but he played a darker version. If you can get a darker version of Freddy, he played a darker version of Freddy. And I'll tell you guys, I really love the Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Probably it is my second favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Number 1 being my favorite. Wes Craven's New Nightmare is probably going to be number 2 on my favorites list. And of course, the Nightmare on Elm Street 3 would be my 3rd favorite. 4, 5, and 6, which 6 was Freddy's dad. But if you watch those other movies, they're good standalone movies, but They do have arcing storyline characters that go from 4 to 5, and then 6 goes completely off the rails. Still a good movie to watch. The New Nightmare ties back into 1 and 3, and then you have the other movie, Freddy vs. Jason. Now, I love the movie Freddy vs. Jason. I'm not gonna lie to you. It ranks very high on my list of movies that I like, because you're essentially bringing together 2 of my favorite characters. You're bringing together Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees. There's a little bit of nostalgia in that, but you got to think, from the original Nightmare on Elm Street, which was in 1984, to Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which was in 94, you had a decade-long span of these movies. And they're very nostalgic movies. I love movies from the 70s and the 80s, especially the horror genre. I think that was when horror was actually at its best. But yeah, I mean, 2002 was when Freddy vs. Jason happened. Guys, that's already been 20 years ago. Coming up on 21 years ago. 22 years ago. I'm lost. It's 2023. But anyway, Freddy Krueger is one of those characters that is going to endure, meaning any generation can go back. And I've watched reactions where people have went back and watched the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Gen Z, millennials, young millennials. Freddy still spooks them. Freddy still gives them a jump scare. Freddy still freaks them out. He is one of those characters. Now, in 4, 5, and 6, Robert Englund, of course, who played Freddy Krueger, really hammed it up in those movies. But 3 was a little bit hammy, but in 3 you started to get more dialogue. And then what happened in Wes Craven's New Nightmare was it took it back to the original limited dialogue. Still some one-liner zingers in there, but for the most part, it was the things that Freddy did that scared everybody. Meaning the way he moved, the way he talked, the noises that come from his throat. I always said, if you go back into my videos and you drop down and you find the one where it says my time as Freddy Krueger, I played Freddy Krueger in a haunted house for years for the fire department. There was a deep guttural growl that came out of his throat that Robert he had mastered the sound so good, and it'll send shivers up your spine. But yeah, in that order, I would watch number 1, number 3, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and then Freddy vs. Jason is just a killer flick. But you know, like I said, character-wise, Freddy is one of those characters that's just always going to endure. The movie franchise is always going to endure. It's right there with the Texas Chainsaw series, Halloween, Michael Myers series, Jason Voorhees series, and even the Sleepaway Camp series. But I'm going to leave it to you to find Sleepaway Camp and watch that for yourself. And if you don't, Tubi, T-U-B-I, Tubi is a movie platform that is free. And right now they have a ton of good old school horror movies on there. And Sleepaway Camp 1, 2, and 3 are on that list. But Sleepaway Camp's a different kind of slasher flick. If you will. You have to just kind of go watch that one and figure it out for yourself. But guys, here we are. Copper has initiated Rolln with Tbone presents Spooktober. And we have the first episode in the bag. So now you know what to look forward to going forward. And I will be live premiering these. If you're new, I do live premieres. Usually I try to do them every Monday at 7:30 p.m. And with this series, guys, I know there will be at least one movie a week. But if I get time to do it, there might even be 2 movies a week. And if I can do 2 movies a week, I've got to figure out my other day for the premiere. And right now it's looking like Thursday will be the second day candidate. Of course, those will be live premieres. Come into the live premiere chat with us. We all just hang out in there and they watch my videos and we have a good time. We talk and see how everybody's doing. Kind of a little virtual family, guys. But there it is, 1984's Nightmare on Elm Street in the bag. And guys, I love it. I love Halloween. I love Shocktober, Spooktober. And I'll be on the lookout for the challenge videos where I have challenged you YouTube content creators to record yourself watching a scary movie and post it on your channel. And I will come to your channel and watch that. I'm here for that. That challenge will go through October the 31st. So there it is, guys. I'm going to go ahead and drop this video off here. This might be a little bit of a longer video, but it is what it is. But I'll tell you what, guys, like, share, comment, subscribe. Tell everybody what T-Bone's doing right now. Come over and join us for Shocktober. Like, share, comment, subscribe, guys. And who knows, maybe you'll sleep good tonight. And maybe old Freddy will come and give you a visit in your dreams. Till the next time, guys, my name is T-Bone. This has been Rolling with T-Bone. Presents Shocktober. Thanks for watching, guys.